No, the Eagles are not losing to the Raiders. And no, the Eagles aren't benching Jalen Hurts. I don't know what else to tell you. It's just not happening. Neither thing. Quite frankly, I think it's ridiculous to even have that conversation. Guys, trending in the AM. Talking Phillies and Eagles today. Whatever else comes up. We're live, taking your thoughts and opinions in 30 seconds. And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM, right here on the STT Sports Network, setting the trends for what sports talk should be in Philadelphia. Guys, please, one and all, wherever you are watching, live or on replay, it is so free and simple. Please hit the like button on your screen. Please subscribe to the STT Sports Network YouTube page, sitting today at starting at 915. And share us out on all your social media platform. It's free to click those buttons. It's free to support a local channel. It's free to support me on my march to 1,000 subscribers. Please also vote on the poll question of the day. How long can we go without mentioning benching Jalen Hurts? I don't know if we can. Anyway, guys, thank you. Please hit those buttons. I'd appreciate it. Like, subscribe, share. I'm Phil Stiefel, and we're starting the day off. Robert, I see your comment over here. Oh, maybe it popped up finally. Maybe there's a little bit of a lag, a little bit more of a lag than normal, so good morning to you. Hope you are well. Guys, it's an absolute ridiculous question. Ridiculous, okay? And what I want to talk about, and look, we're fans. So when Rick wants to bench Jalen Hurts for Tanner McKee, I don't agree, but I get it. When Duck doesn't like Nick Sirianni, we can discuss it, whatever. But when you're the media, okay, I'm calling out the media, okay, to start the show. I know I don't want to talk Jalen Hurts and benching him, but I'm not talking that. To start the show is the nonsense of the media, okay? Because Nick Sirianni every week goes on WWIP to have a morning, once a week in the morning to talk about recapping the game with the morning show host. I don't even know who the morning people are over there. And yesterday he was just openly, blatantly asked, are you considering benching Jalen Hurts? And thankfully, Nick Sirianni just flat out said, that is a ridiculous question. Now, he didn't need to go on and explain why. He did, whatever. But come on now. A, what did you expect him to answer that with? B, why are we still talking about this? Why do we have on the midday show Joe getting jiggy with it? Talking about that, I don't care what he did in the past. This is his last game of freedom. If he loses this week, then he's done. Got a lot bigger problems if we lose to the Raiders than just Jalen Hurts. A lot bigger problems, right? Why can't we be different? Why can't we have a conversation? Why can't you ask Nick Sirianni real questions? Good morning, Duck. How you doing? The toxic environment our sports media makes it impossible to be positive. Absolutely. Yeah, people keep going back to it, Duck. Has the lack of consistency at OC for Hurts, constantly learning a new offense, prevented Hurts from focusing on taking the next steps as a quarterback? Maybe he's always trying to learn something new instead of how to improve. Maybe that is something right there, Steve. It absolutely is something. How much of it, I don't know. Good morning, little G. Big fan of the Eagles? Yes. I mean, we better kick the Raiders' butts. If not, we got what's up, Marky Mark? Big Phil, don't bench Hurts. Run the ball with Hurts, Barkley, Bigsby. His safe passes to take confidence. Yeah, look, he needs to get that confidence back for sure, Mark. And anybody suggesting to bench Hurts, is either a frustrated fan or a rage baiter. And I partially give Nick Sirianni credit for the way he just said that's a ridiculous question when asked of it. Quite frankly, if I was Nick Sirianni, I'd say that's a ridiculous question. Why would you even ask that? And hang up the phone. It's funny. There's been two different things that has happened, okay, in the media this week. One's big. Well, three things. Two with WIP yesterday. Big things, okay? The rage baiting and all. And then you have John Marks take a call on his show over on the Fanny Packs and get asked a Flyers question. He's like, I don't know who that is. And just moves on to the next call. Look, I get it. If you're not flashing, look, I half the Flyers comments because I don't pay enough attention to the Flyers. But the Fanny Packs are the official station of the Flyers. They should at least have one person on every team that knows a little bit about the Flyers. But that's not that big a deal. At least John Marks was being honest. Look, I'm not going to make up an opinion that I don't know and have any information on. But then you got the official, radio station of the Eagles, WIP, asking the coach to bench his Super Bowl MVP quarterback. Then you got the follow-up of saying, are we really saying that this Raiders game is do or die, not for the season, for Jalen Hurts' career as the Eagles starter? It's ludicrous. It's insanity. It is what's wrong with the media. Good morning. If we lose to the Raiders, Sirianni and Patullo will be gone. Well, I already joked about that Tuesday morning, maybe even Monday night during the disaster. Absolutely, it would happen. But I started this morning while I was drinking my first cup of coffee, going through some of the stats. There is no way the Eagles lose to the Raiders. I don't care if Jalen Hurts does exactly what he did on Monday night again. They're still not losing to the Raiders. The Eagles' defense, which is what we should be focusing on, not the nonsense of benching Jalen Hurts. The Eagles' defense is shaping up to be special. And the Raiders' offense, well, it's pretty brutal. And I know a lot of that was under Chip Kelly. And I know Geno Smith was the starter. Now he's hurt, and we're probably getting Kenny Pickett. But if this defense gives up any more than 18 points to this Raiders team, I would be utterly shocked. The Eagles are giving up like 20, where is it? They're giving up just under 21 points a game, 20.8. And that was some high-powered offenses that we have faced. The Raiders average 15.1 points per game. If the Eagles' defense, I wouldn't be shocked if the Eagles' defense could pitch a shutout this weekend against the Raiders. They know it's very hard to shut a team out, and it's not likely. But that's how big lopsided our defense versus their offense is going to be this week. You want some old-fashioned Southern faith, listen to Jordan Davis talk about the offense. He needs the captain. It's funny. When I was listening to that, Duck, I don't know if you remember the episode in early training camp. I had Ed Kratz, Sports Illustrated, on, talking about who the leaders were going to be, who the captains were going to be. And he said Jordan Davis was in line to become a captain. Now, he didn't get that captaincy. But, man, the guy is a leader. The guy has grown leaps and bounds, not just on the field, but in the locker room as one of the top guys this year. Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter's careers are always going to be linked. One was taken, and then the next year, Jalen Carter was taken. Jordan Davis is this behemoth. Jalen Carter is this athletic freak. I almost want to say, and it's a lot of injury to it, but Jalen Carter has stalled this year. Jalen Carter's where Jordan Davis was a year or so ago. Stalling in his progressions. Now, yes, Jalen Carter is still a physical specimen, a beast, and it is what it is. He's had a banged-up year since training camp with the shoulder. But Jordan Davis not only has grown as a player, he's grown leaps and bounds with the respect he commands. He doesn't just command respect because of the size. He commands respect because he backs up his actions with words. Hell, he did that to start coming into camp in shape. He changed it because people forget in 2023, his second year in the league, he came into training camp in phenomenal shape. Everyone's like, oh, look at how much great shape he came in. He's lost weight, blah, blah, blah. But he wasn't mature enough to maintain that. This year, he's maintaining it. And, of course, yes, he's becoming such a leader now. He's becoming this guy that the defense can lean on. He's becoming a guy where before training camp, I forget whenever they picked up his fifth-year option. They had a certain date. I forget when that was. But whatever that was, we talked on this show nonstop about should they pick up Jordan Davis's fifth-year option? Should they give him an extension? What was the situation? How was it going to unfold? That was a huge offseason topic. We spent many shows discussing Jordan Davis. Well, he's just played himself this year, barring anything crazy happening over the last 4 weeks, into getting an extension, a part of this team's future going forward. He's made Howie Roseman's job balancing the financials on this defense over the next 2 to 3 years much more difficult. Because I think everybody expected him just to play out his fifth-year option next year, and that's it. And then be gone. Get a comp pick when he signs elsewhere. Now you're learning that he just took a few extra years to develop the maturity needed to be an elite football player. And we're watching that unfold in front of our eyes. And that's just one of many reasons why the Eagles aren't losing to the Raiders. This defense is not going to crumble to Kenny Pickett. What's up, AK? How you doing this morning? Hope you are wonderful this beautiful morning. Guys, if you haven't yet, like, share, subscribe. People are watching. No one's commenting. Whatever you got to say. Maybe you're a little upset I don't want to talk about Jalen Hurts. The whole poll question, how long can we go without mentioning benching Jalen Hurts and not counting the poll question? Not a chance. You wish. Tanner's Brady, and maybe we make it 5 minutes. We actually did just go 7 straight minutes talking about the defense in Jordan Davis. So, for everybody right there. Very well done. Very well done. And the only reason why Jalen Hurts' name came up was because I was promoting the poll question. Why don't we talk? What is it with the Eagles fan base that drives them to continually listen to that nonsense on the radio? In 2025, it's almost over 2025, almost 2026, why haven't more people figured out you don't have to turn the radio on, the dial on in the car? There are alternatives. And that's not to prop me up. That's not to hype me up. Because there's some people don't like the way I do business here. That's fine. Why is it so hard to convince people to change their habits of turning on the dial versus XM or YouTube or Spotify or whatever else there is? This team is having a very difficult time getting in sync. It is having a very difficult time getting in sync. And that's been the case on even though the defense is playing pretty damn well right now, Duck, and can play so much better, and they're really going to get their vibe over the next 4 weeks. Does it go back to Steve's question earlier about how all these offensive coordinator changes makes it difficult to get in sync? How much of it is the players? What is the reason? Or can it simply be, and this is not a knock on Hurts, this is not a knock on Sirianni, anybody, because unless you're Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs or Tom Brady and the Patriots, almost every team that wins a Super Bowl or loses a Super Bowl has a Super Bowl hangover. I mean, I don't know what the numbers are now, but just the losing team in the Super Bowl. I remember years ago, it was something like 20 straight years the losing team in the Super Bowl didn't make it back the next year. There was a long stretch of that. Going to the Super Bowl, Winning the Super Bowl puts a toll on your body. Winning this a toll on your time preparing for the next season because of all the people pulling at you. And I'm not saying Jalen Hurts let the stardom distract him, but maybe Jalen Hurts was distracted a little bit this offseason. Maybe. Not just the wedding. I know we joke about getting married. But I don't know. Maybe there's something to it. Habit. WAP was what their grandfather listened to, their fathers listened to, and God damn it, that's what they'll listen to too. I get it. I get it, Duck. And as a guy that used to own a pizza shop, because I don't anymore, even though they're 0-3 since I sold, my biggest challenge when I opened my pizza shop was convincing the people, because there's only like 2 other pizza shops in my town at the time. Now there's like 47. That the problem is that convincing people to break those habits is difficult. You know, Friday night, just pick up and dial the same number we've been dialing for 10 years. Got it. You know, it's hard to break that habit. This isn't food. This is making my ears bleed. Okay? How do I think Phillip Rivers will do this week? Hopefully Phillip Rivers, like, I'm just envisioning like an AI video of an 80-year-old man just getting ripped to shreds by a defense. I don't even know who the Colts play this week. Hold on. Let me look that up. Where are the Colts? They don't play Thursday night. Where's the scoreboard for this weekend? The Colts play the Seahawks. Seahawks are a pretty good team. In Seattle, with that defense. That's gonna be a scary game. I just hear the 12th man, the shaking of the ground hurt him. Like, I hope he does well. I think it's crazy that he's willing to come back after not. I think it's crazy that the Colts can't find somebody with more now in the moment experience, or you know, not experience. He's got a lot of experience, but you know, played this year. There's got to be a practice squad guy somewhere in the NFL. You mean Nathan Peterman ain't around? I mean, it's crazy to me. It really is. Good morning, Nina. How you doing? A friend told me John Johnson, WIP, said this morning to sit Hurts Sunday to humble him. Like, seriously. Nina, it's ridiculous. And I'm so glad you're commenting here, Nina. I love you. It's ridiculous. And why? Why do we have to have this conversation? So Joe getting jiggy with it, this is his last chance to prove himself. He's proved himself for the last 4.5 years. Okay? This isn't even the first time Jalen Hurts has lost 3 games in a row in his Eagles career. It's ridiculous. Asking Nick Sirianni point blank, are you benching him? If I was Nick Sirianni, I'd hang up on that call. Like that. People wonder why I don't listen to this stuff. I wish, just like Mark or Duck said before, you know, it's just natural habit. Grandfather listened to it, father listened to it. I listened to WIP with my dad growing up nonstop. You know, he had side jobs delivering newspapers on the weekends. Like at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, I'd be in a van with him, listen to WIP. Listen to Stan Hockman, you know, doing the early mornings on the radio. Raspy voice. This is Stan Hockman for WIP. But it's nonsense. It really, truly is. And you know what's funny? I know these guys don't even believe half what they say. I've never really interacted with John Johnson, but I've interacted with Joe Giglio. Actually, he was a guest on this show before. I've interacted with Jack Fritz. I've interacted with a lot of these guys. They're good people. But they got a business to sell, a struggling business. And they're compromising values and opinions and our ears. And it's crazy. Long live WIP, long live free thinkers and free talkers, or what to say. That's why Homer's got to go. And you know what? That's fine. If you think it, it's fine. And as a fan, that's fine for us to discuss this. But when you think you're a respectable media outlet, and when you see these guys lament, they know what they're doing. They don't believe what they're saying. We got two different Ninas. I got to make sure I keep track of Nina 1 and Nina 2. They know what they're saying. They're doing it for a reason, Nina. I would have said that's ridiculous and hung up. That's what I would have done. And as the official station of the Eagles, that should be embarrassing. It's embarrassing that John Marks didn't know the Flyers guy that was brought up on his show. But at least he admitted instead of making up an opinion, he just admitted it. WIP has gotten more toxic since media in the area has become monopolized, and they need to become toxic to get the commercials. They sold their souls for the almighty dollar. Absolutely. And honestly, as a business person, I understand it. They're trying to make money. They're trying to sell ads. I get it. A former businessman, I understand what their practices are and why they are. I do. WIP is called sports media, not sport. It's not that WIP is turning into WWE, right? Eagles should definitely give Davis a new contract. 100%. Let's get back on track here. Let's get back talking about our actual Eagles, right? This elite defense that's going to carry us through the next 4 weeks while the offense figures it out or doesn't. You know, it's funny. In the offseason, we weren't even sure if we should give Davis a new contract, right? And we were talking about this record-breaking contract that Jalen Carter was going to sign. Now the tables have changed. The tides have changed. Jordan Davis or Jalen Carter is still going to get a huge contract. Maybe not this offseason. Jordan Davis deserves an extension after this year. Hell, I would consider negotiating it now with him. Rivers needs money so bad he's willing to risk his life on a football field. Did his ex put him on shots? Does he have an ex? Did he get divorced? His wife has like 17 kids. I thought he was still married. Like, I don't know if that's just a joke or a true statement. I don't know. Philip Rivers is one of those guys. Just can't stop pumping those kids out. Philip Rivers is one of those guys that's like, yo, he doesn't know the word of no more. He doesn't understand what no more means. It's crazy. I couldn't imagine having one kid. I couldn't imagine having double-digit kids. I grew up in what I thought was a big household of 5 kids, or 5 of us total, counting me. I couldn't imagine what that house is like at all. Right, Doug? Agree? Like, could you imagine what a house with, like, we're not even talking 10. I don't know the exact number. I think it's like 15 kids. Like, I couldn't comprehend that. Like, that doesn't compute. The wires cross in my head on that. They just cross on that. Well, pump the brakes a little, big guy. I love Jordan Davis, too. I was one of his first podcasters to say he was Fletcher's heir before we drafted him, but I need to see more than 1 year before I... No, okay, look. I'm not saying he's getting some huge, massive breaking contract. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. Okay? But what I'm saying is he's put himself in the converse season to keep him around. Like, we talked before the season, in the offseason multiple times. Do you pick up his 5th-year option or not? Do you extend him cheaply? Like, I talked about 3 years, $20 million, give him some security, but he hasn't proven it. Or we even talked about his trade value. Okay? Now we're at the point of talking where we don't want him to leave. We have to discuss now whether he gets a short-term extension or plays under his 5th-year option. That's all we're talking about. I'm not trying to say he's going to be, getting some 5-year, $120 million contract or anything like that. I want you to understand where I'm getting. It's the pivot in the conversation about him from March, April, May. When was the year the deadline? It was either like May 5th or March 5th. You had to pick up 5th-year options by whatever that date was. Leading up to that, the conversation then to where we are now with him is drastically different. And we're talking about his leadership as well Because, again, in the offseason, I had a beat reporter on hyping up Jordan Davis's leadership skills that were growing, and we're seeing that leadership explode in front of our eyes. Not saying he's not going to be good, saying I don't want no more mistakes. Make sure it's a certainty and a guarantee before you pull any triggers. Well, first off, no such thing as a guarantee, or certainty in football or any sports. Absolutely. You've got to figure out a lot more. But he's definitely taking a massive stride forward this year. That's it. Internet says he's still married to the same woman, and she's concerned about him returning to football. I'd be concerned about him. I am concerned. And I've spent more time bashing Phillip Rivers over the last 20 years than anybody else. Just a fantasy football quarterback. But let me tell you something. More props to him for doing it. He has 9. For some reason, I feel like it should be so much more than 9. Jordan Davis will get a huge contract here or somewhere else at the end of this. He's still got a 5th year to play under, doesn't he? Or is this year's 5th year? I got to look that up. I thought he still had it. He picked up his 5th year option. So he still has 1 more year on his contract, I think. I can find that. What the hell did I do there? Trying to type in contract, and I typed in concert. Jordan Davis has a concert series coming up, too. I'm not sure who Jordan Davis, the singer, is, but Jordan Davis, the singer, has a concert tour coming up. Yeah, he's still got next year under contract. So technically, he's on the books for $12.9 million next year. So Jordan Davis is not on the last year of his deal. Now you just have to negotiate with him. I use sarcasm when the Eagles lose. It's my way of venting. Gotcha. In that case, yes, I totally agree. It's played into that conversation of a prove-it contract deal for 3 years. But if we're talking, we're definitely not at talking the $100 million yet, AK. But in, say, March or April, if anybody suggested that, we would have laughed, right? Now we're at the point where it's not a laugh. It's, well, he's a lot closer to a $100 million contract versus just being let go. You know what I mean? Like, just let him go. Play it out and walk. He's not going to get no 3-year, $20 million extension, which Howie probably could have given him this past offseason because he had so much still to prove. That's the difference with Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis has gone from an afterthought, an extra, a guy you can't count on for more than, 40% of snaps to a guy that's already set a career high in snaps. Now, I want to know if now that he's set his career high, does he stay in shape? Does he hit a wall? There is like a 1% concern that Jordan Davis hits a wall now, that he's at whatever, 530, 540 snaps on the year. There is that slight concern. And with Jordan Davis playing this huge increase in snaps, and then you factor in that Jalen Carter is still missing time for at least the next 2 weeks, maybe the rest of the year, depending on how the next couple of weeks go, the snap count's going to keep ticking up. How does he hold up? How will his body hold up? I mean, that's a question for a lot of guys on the Eagles, how their body's going to hold up this year. But it's not just him on defense. Obviously, it's also Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Obviously, it's also Jalix Hunt. The young guys on this defense, I know the record doesn't say it. And that is partly a more on the offense than the defense. But the core parts of this defense have grown exponentially, and I don't think we realize it because of the distractions from the offense. Because WIP wants to talk about benching Jalen Hurts instead of getting, former players that are defenders to talk about the defense on the air. Instead of getting analysts on the air to talk about the defensive performances, we're talking Jalen Hurts and benching him. Quinion Mitchell, the numbers that I'm reading on Quinion Mitchell, how many times he's been targeted, versus what he's given up. It's insane. Jalen Hurts, again, but in the last couple of weeks, the numbers in the last 5-6 games, 17 pressures, 4.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, and a pick 6. The pressure he's getting in his second year when he was a 3 to 4 year project. It's crazy to see. It's crazy to see how he's grown. I'd say he wants to get him under. I'd say if he wants to get him under contract this offseason, 3 years, 60 is cool by me, but that is probably as steep as my pockets are going. Well, yeah, and that's really when I talked to the fact that there was pushback in the offseason of me saying give him a 3-year, $20 or $21 million contract. I forget exactly what I suggested, but it was somewhere in that 3-year, $20, $21 million contract. That's crazy. It's crazy that he's been able, like I hoped for a step forward from him this year. This type of step forward was not what I had on my cards. If the Bucs lose today, their season, I don't think it's officially over because I think you're still in first place in your division. But you got the Bucs at home against the Falcons tonight. Tampa Bay's only a 4.5-point favorite. Division game, Thursday Night Football. I think your Bucs win. Do I think the Bucs go out there and dominate and make a statement? Unfortunately not. But I think the Bucs win. They gotta win. I mean, their season's not over, but who does Carolina face this week? The Panthers got the Saints. So the Panthers, so they'll lose first place in the division if they lose tonight. But their season's not over. I don't know if you guys got any games with the Panthers left this year to really solidify that. But sorry, my deep dive knowledge on the Bucs and the Panthers isn't prime this morning. I've prepped to talk Eagles. I've prepped to talk Phillies. I can like John Marks, not knowing a Flyers player on the air. I don't know much about the Bucs today, and I'll just admit that. For your sake, because you've been a good, loyal supporter of the channel, I hope the Bucs win and keep your season alive. I'll only root against the Bucs when it affects the Eagles. And since we finally got some revenge on the Bucs this year, I feel a little bit better about the Bucs. You know, we think about how great this defense has been of the Eagles. And we talk about Jordan Davis, Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Jalen Hurts. There's still a lot of meat left on the bone. There's still even better that there can be from this defense. Nolan Smith has been a ghost. The fact that Nakobe Dean, who's been back for like 5 or 6 weeks, like playing him in sacks, tells you that the rest of that edge position, is still a question mark. You look at it this way. I look at it this way. Everyone's talking about how this offseason, how he needs to fix the offensive line in that draft, get Lane Johnson's replacement. 2 of the first 4 picks should be O-linemen, blah, blah, blah. Maybe if you move on from A.J. Brown, you're going to need another wide receiver. You need a tight end, all this stuff. The Eagles still have, despite this Eagles defense being the 9th-ranked defense in points given up a game in the NFL, which is crazy that they've gotten into the top 10 with how bad they were. The Eagles' defense still has 2 glaring holes. The defensive end position, the edge rush position, and safety. And there's an argument to be made that the Eagles need to draft an edge, not a tackle. And I don't want to write off Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith's been banged up his first year, this year, last year. Nolan Smith, to me, has fallen behind Jalen Hurts in the pecking order of most important edge rushers on this team. It's Jalen Phillips and Jalen Hurts, the 2 J's. The bookends are the J's. Nolan Smith, to me, while still a really damn good player with a lot of potential, it ain't his rookie year anymore. It's not his second year anymore. Where we're taking a step forward. Jalen Hurts is taking that step forward. Nolan Smith is not. So the Eagles team still has some holes on that defense that they have to worry about, that they have to overcome. And to me, that tells me how special this defense is, that with as many weaknesses as they have on this team, that they're still capable of being even better. And guys, if you haven't, hit that like button, subscribe, share this out. There are 19 votes on the poll. There are not 19 likes on this video, guys. Hit those buttons. Drop your comments. Today's title, Jalen Hurts will rebound, and the Eagles' elite defense will carry us. The follow-up to that is back to the playoffs and back to some success. This schedule that the Eagles faced this year, we talk about the coordinators or the distraction, the Super Bowl hangover. We talk about the injuries to the offensive line, to defense. But again, we also have to remember the schedule the Eagles have faced this year. How much is that factored in? Coming off a Super Bowl, coming off all the distractions, and then having the schedule that they have had to face. We knew all along that this final stretch would compromise or combined would bring about a big chunk of our wins. And here we are. I know Nolan hasn't played the best right now, but I'll tell you what, I'm glad we don't have Abdul Carter because, man, he is getting torn up by left tackles and fourth overall dude's a waste. Look, I've seen some of those clips. I haven't watched this week's Hard Knocks yet. See when I get to that. But how much is Abdul Carter's maturity issue? And I would say, does he have somebody to mentor him? But they do in Brian Burns there. How much of it's a maturity? How much of it's just the Giants are a disaster? And I almost made an excuse for him, and there should be no excuse. There should be no excuse to go out there and put out 110% effort. And you know, rookies get beat up by veterans sometimes. But, man, people expected so much more from him. People expected so much more from that defensive line in general of the Giants. I wouldn't write off Abdul Carter yet. The raw talent is there, obviously. Obviously has a motivation issue. But, I mean, if you're even the slightest bit weak of a person and you go, if you're that weak of a person and you go to the Giants, it's hard to stay motivated. Oh, LT as in Lawrence Taylor. I haven't heard the quotes. But I can only imagine from what I've seen floating around of videos of him, how he's acting. I mean, he's been suspended for immaturity already this year. It sucks. It's a sucky situation. And it's, you know, if they're giving up on him already, then that just is more proof that the organization is a disaster. If Lawrence Taylor wants to be just a media guy tearing into players, that's fine. But if Lawrence Taylor wants to be the legend from the New York Giants organization, maybe Lawrence Taylor shouldn't be tearing him up. Maybe Lawrence Taylor should be reaching out to him to help coach him along. Maybe Brian Burns can't get through to him. Maybe LT could. Maybe LT could scare the living shit out of him. I mean, I'm still scared of Lawrence Taylor to this day. And I turned 45 in a couple days. God damn, I'm turning 45 in a couple days. You know how much that hurts to say? 45 is a big number. I don't know. It's one of those numbers. That's this weekend. Anyway. The Eagles' defense, I don't need to talk about the Giants' defense too much. Nolan Smith, the segue to the Giants' defense there. I'd be more concerned about figuring out Nolan Smith now. Because if we have Jordan Davis taking a step forward, if Jalen Carter can get healthy, if Jalen Hunt can continue to progress, it'd be better for the Eagles to be solidified with Nolan Smith, knowing what they've got, versus not. going into the offseason with a Nolan Smith question mark, which they'll have no matter what, but less of one would be better off. He pretty much blasted him and said, listen, you wanted my number, and this is what you're doing. I'm glad I didn't give it to you because you would have trashed my image. If that's paraphrasing it, that's immature Lawrence Taylor's part. Guy asked for your number, you said no. That's not a good look for Lawrence Taylor. Again, I don't know the full situation, but I just know what you're giving me here. That's not a good look. But we're spending too much time talking about the New York Giants versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's not waste our breath on that dumpster fire. Let's focus on the Eagles and how they are going to rebound. So I brought this. So I wrote this down. I looked this up last night. Jalen Hurts was drafted in 2020, played a few games in 2020, 4 or 5 games, 4 starts, 1 he took over, whatever it was. So he's had 4.5 years as the starter, as a full-time starter. He has lost 3 games in a row twice, okay? In 2023, he did lose 3 in a row after that Buffalo Bills game. And then in week 16, came back and won a game against the Giants. Hurts threw for over 300 yards, threw a touchdown. The Eagles had over 170 rushing yards. Now it was the Giants. The Giants stink. And look, the Raiders stink. Jalen Hurts went out there and the whole team played well. And then in 2021, his first year as a starter, he lost 3 games in a row, weeks 2, 3, and 4. And then week 5 came out and beat the Panthers. Now that was a closer, low-scoring game. That was more of a defensive effort, holding the Carolina Panthers to like 260 yards or whatever it was. Can't read my handwriting. Does that say 267 or 260? I can't tell. So the only 2 times Jalen Hurts has ever lost 3 in a row, the Eagles have rebounded with big wins. The only times Nick Sirianni's led teams have lost 3 in a row, 2 times, they've rebounded with big games. And not only is this a big game, this is the Raiders. They stink. God, don't remind me, dude. I'm right there with you. Thanks a lot. Now I'm going to be depressed the rest of the day. Exactly. Nolan needs to hurry up and pick it up because we got other holes to fill on this team, and I don't want Howie sitting here spending the first, 5 rounds on the line. And look, the problem is no matter what he does the rest of this year, Nolan Smith, we're going to be concerned about him in the offseason because now this is the 3rd time in his career, the 3rd time in 4 years that he's been hurt in his career. We're never going to be fully confident in his health, okay? Andy Reid said you can't lose your starting position because of injury, and the lie detector determined that was a lie. Nolan Smith is the backup. Nolan Smith is the backup now, in my opinion, to Hunt and Phillips. I'm not worried Jalen took us to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. I'm not worried we're going to throw a little adversity. Philly, not pretty city. It's a gritty city. Everyone should relax. That's what I'm here to do. That's what I'm here to do, RM. Or WM. I'm here to remind people that the sky feels like it's falling on 2025. And it very may well. But Jalen Hurts will be fine. I'll take Jalen Hurts' down years, every other year a down year for this team, if every other year we're in the Super Bowl. I'll take that. Every year. The even years we go to Super Bowls, the odd years we lose in the first round of the playoffs. That's fine by me. And I think it's ridiculous. And honestly, I really, truly, firmly believe, and I don't want to make this a full media bashing, but I think, and I'm just making these numbers up, just say theoretically, 50 for Tanner McKee and 50 don't. I bet you if there was 50% of the fan base that wanted to bench Jalen Hurts, okay, that 30% of them only want to do it because the media is rage baiting them into thinking that that's an option or a good idea. It's because Out of those 50%, so many of them listen to WIP instead of their own brains that they think it should happen. I think the fan base is goaded into thinking negative. It's not hard to just say, yo, I was wrong about Jalen Hurts. And move on. I said I was wrong about Justin Herbert this week. I've been bashing Justin Herbert for 4 years. Really bashing him ever since that playoff loss to the Jaguars a few years back. But then I watched him play, and I'm like, yo, my opinion on Justin Herbert changed a little bit. On the contrary, Philadelphia is a beautiful city. It is gritty, but it is beautiful. Philadelphia is beautiful. I mean, every city's got pollution and trash, and that's what, my dad, when he worked for Bell Telephone, used to answer the phone with Bill Stiefel, Bell Telephone Philadelphia, or he would say Philadelphia office. But every city's got that. Are you a Maury Povich fan? He's got to be about 112 years old by now. Don't even know who that is, bro. You don't know? He's like, trash reality talk show TV. He is not the father of the child. You and I know that most of these people who want McKee in will go back under the rock when McKee gets smashed. I think so many of them believe that or think that, Duck, because they're goaded into believing it. All right? It also comes down to too many people have access to all 22 films now and don't know what they're looking at. And they see a preseason video of Tanner McKee and think he's some special guy. They see some footage from the 18th week 18 against backups and don't care. The media goats these people into thinking this way. Philadelphia, I remember when that was actually true. What we are now is not what we were then. That's true. And my dad used to say that, in the early 90s when he worked still. Well, of course, we'll be fine, man, because it's not our players for the reason why we're shitty. It's because we have a cheerleader head coach and an incompetent OC. Anyone with a brain knows that. Well, again, I'm not going to say, I guess cheerleader head coach wasn't as bashing as incompetent OC. Look, I closed it out because it was from before the Monday night game, so I didn't see an update. But I've tried, I've kind of avoided bashing Kevin Patullo to an extent, thinking it was execution and injuries played a part in it. But somebody put up the Eagles' offensive EPA, okay? I know it's an analytics stat, and I'm not an analytics guy, but they put up the Eagles' offensive EPA through the first 12 games of the season. They put it up Sunday or Monday on social media. And something like Shane Steichen year 1, it was like 58 point whatever. Year 2, Shane Steichen in 22, it was like 60 point whatever. 2023, Brian Johnson, it went down to like 52 point whatever percent EPA. 2024, went back up over to 60 with Kellen Moore. And then this year under Kevin Patullo, it was minus 5 point something. Like, oh my God, that's a huge difference. When you're in the 50s and 60s, and now you're in the negatives. That's not like it was like 50s or 60s, and Kevin Patullo's got it down to like 25. Like we're negative. That's got to be on Kevin Patullo. It's got to be. Good morning, Eagles girl. How you doing this beautiful cold morning? Anthony in the house, how are you, my good friend? Even though we'll be fine this season, unfortunately, it's still over because the two people that are the dysfunctional part are still here for now. Sirianni, I say in jest, but not in jest. If we lose to the Raiders, there's a damn good chance that Nick Sirianni is fired. Kevin Patullo definitely fired. But we're not losing to the Raiders, so it's not happening. I'm still, just like I'm giving Jalen Hurts the benefit of the doubt. To me, Nick Sirianni, CEO, cheerleader, whatever he is, still gets the benefit of the doubt from me. He really does. The 4.5 year track record, there's way more good than there is bad. Incompetent OC, Sirianni cannot fix this because of his connection. And that's where somebody needs to step in and fix it for him. See, that's why I didn't know him, because you said his name, and no, I didn't watch that shit. I mean, there's just so many jokes and reels online about Maury Povich. If you even live online a little bit, you have to have seen, no, you are not the father. But yeah. Are the Eagles loyal to their franchise quarterback, or will they replace him after a few bad games for the next hot John? Just use him up until they don't need him anymore. Well, the Eagles are loyal to their franchise quarterback. It's the fans. The same people that want to bench Jalen Hurts are the same people that were cheering him on when he was leading us, staggering the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. It's the fans that have turned on him because the media have told him, people, to turn on him. All the backup quarterbacks in the Eagles' history that are quarterbacks, period, that have been bad. I mean, drafted quarterbacks have been bad. Like, seriously, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. You move on from Jalen Hurts for Tanner McKee. Maybe he's good, maybe he's not. But if he's not, your franchise is set back 10 years. If he is, okay, we continue on. Would you rather Tanner McKee throwing 320 yards a game, 40 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, goes 11-6 in a first-round exit? Would you rather the guy that you know can put you on his back and carry you to a Super Bowl victory? I know which one I'm taking. I'm trading Tanner McKee's ass the first second I get this offseason for a first-round pick. Without a doubt. And anybody else that suggests benching Jalen Hurts for Tanner McKee for any reason other than he gets hurt, I'm going to answer the way Nick Sirianni answers. That's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous question. A ridiculous comment. Because it is. It's a real ridiculous conversation, in my opinion. Now, again, I do like to say, all opinions matter. And look, I get it. If you have that opinion, you're warranted to it. I'm just going to tell you that I strongly, strongly disagree. If McKee is gone, the fans would want Sam Howell to play. They probably would, Mitchie Poo. You're probably not wrong. It's the city, Mitch. This city is fascinated with backups. The same, you're a Sixers guy. The same that Sixers fans fall in love. First with Charles Bassey, then with B-Ball Paul. Now with a Dembona. And these guys aren't good. We're fascinated with what's next. It's why Travis Fulgham. It's why all the backup wide receivers, the Paul Turners of the world. Hey, we've been in love with Darius Cooper from training camp. What's he done this year? Philadelphia loves the backup because they love the underdog story. Eagles, girl, they might be real fans, but they're real fans that listen to the wrong people. They're real fans that let other people tell them what their opinion should be. They're fans that are stuck in a broken cycle of turning on, we trash TV, trash radio. Then they haven't seen Hal play. That's true. Look, the Eagles, there's somebody, I forget who it is, someone spreading the nonsense that the Eagles a quarterback high this year in the draft, second, third round, something like that. Yeah, they might draft a quarterback high, not because they're going to bench Jalen Hurts, but because Tanner McKee's going to enter the last year of his deal. They're going to trade Tanner McKee. Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni value the backup quarterback because they know its importance. You look at some of the backups playing this week. You look at what the Colts are doing. Having a viable backup quarterback is important. So, yeah, they're probably going to draft a quarterback again this year to develop. Especially if Kyle McCord's not developing on the practice squad right now. But it doesn't have to do because they don't have faith in Jalen Hurts. Just use him like a cheap stripper until a hotter chick with daddy issues gets on the pole. No, I'm sorry, man. I can't do this anymore. I'm done giving a guy who can't call plays and run my offense credit for other people's success. I just won't do it because in 2 years we'll be back here. We might be. And look, again, you're warranted to your opinion. I disagree. I'm giving Nick Sirianni the benefit of the doubt. Nick Sirianni took a team that completely collapsed in 2023 and led them to a Super Bowl victory last year. All right? You have to give him some credit for taking this team to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. No one else has ever done that in Philadelphia Eagles history. Okay? There's got to be some credit given there. Okay? And I hate it that he can't call plays. I get that. He's picked 2 awful offense coordinators. I get that. But I also see the good. And I think the good outweighs the bad. You just have to have that perfect complement. That's why the defense is so good, because he stays out of the defense. Because you got a guy like Vic Fangio running it. I'm perfectly fine if you go get a Frank Reich to be his complement, his part B. I don't see why people want to bench Jalen. I understand he's doing really bad right now, but to sit here and think that Tanner is going to be any better is preposterous. It is. Okay? And he has been bad. Jalen Hurts has been awful the last couple of weeks. We all see it. Even the biggest Jalenites like me can see he's been awful. We get that. But the alternative? Benching him, letting him sit a week to collect his thoughts. That ain't fixing nothing. That's just stirring the pot even more. You bench Jalen Hurts for Tanner McKee, and Tanner McKee even does decent, which is the Raiders, so he probably would. Then that's going to give the McKeesters more fire. He stinks. Now you got a quarterback problem. You risk losing some of that leadership that Jalen Hurts has and respect he has in that locker room. Because, well, if the team doesn't have faith, the organization doesn't have faith in him, why should the teammates have faith in him? There's so much that goes on in the background. If you do that, that could be bad, good or bad. It's not worth it. Young Eagles fans have no idea how good they have it. It's so funny to me. I've lived through Richie Kotite and Ray Rhodes years. Yeah. Don't knock the Ray Rhodes years. Ray Rhodes won a playoff game with Rodney MVP as his quarterback, okay? So let's pump the brakes on the Ray Rhodes hate. I think Ray Rhodes had 2 winning seasons here. But yes, I mean, dude, I'm turning 45 later this week, okay? I know most years. I know bad Phillies years. I know bad all those years, okay? I get it. But the youngins, they don't know. I get that too. Paul George had a post-practice interview yesterday. Why isn't anyone covering that story? Did he actually talk yesterday? I don't even know. Like, yesterday kind of just like flew by, and I missed a lot yesterday. I'll look into it. Did he say anything interesting? Did Paul George say anything controversial or good or bad? Look, Paul George is having an interesting season to me. If he could stay on the court and get his minutes up, I think he's playing good. His defense has been pretty solid. He's just got to stay on the court. Tanner playing well against the Giants' terrible backups has caused so many idiots to lose their minds. Yeah, Anthony, you're right. They've lost their minds because they've been pre-programmed that way by the people they listen to, instead of coming up with their own decisions. Younger Pats fans have when lived nothing but Brady suffered. Yeah, exactly. It's a great comparison right there. Ray Rhodes wasn't that bad. He had a good defense. Ray Rhodes was another Buddy Ryan to an extent. Great defensive coordinator, terrible head coach. Ray Rhodes had a very strong defense throughout his entire career. He did win more. Kotite was so bad. Kotite won more playoff games than Buddy. He did. At least Kotite won playoff games. The youngins. I feel that I still consider myself a youngin, even though I'm 44. But for some reason, when that 45 number, when the calendar rolls over from Phil being 44 to 45 on Sunday, I feel like I'm not going to be a youngin anymore. For some reason, 45 is. I felt weird when I hit 30. I thought that was a big number. For some reason, 45, more so than 50, is a number that's smacking me in my face right now. Kotite is the worst head coach I've ever seen in any sport. Oh, I don't know about that, Anthony. Let me name some bad Philadelphia coaches in my timeline worse than Kotite. Nick Leva is the first name that jumps off my head. Nick Leva was pretty awful with the Phillies. All right. Let's see. Ryan Sandberg would probably be on the same level as Kotite. Doug Moe. I'd put Doug Moe in that category ahead of Kotite. I'm really digging deep because Kotite is really that bad. Like, I can't just throw any name out there. I got to think of the worst of the worst. I would say for sure Doug Moe, Ryan Sandberg, Nick Leyva. Rich Kotite might be the worst Eagles head coach, but that's it. It's just another sarcastic comment. No one cares about the Sixers, let alone Paul George. Okay. I mean, if he did talk, I try my best to listen to every press conference, every interview of everybody, because I want to be able to have conversation. I don't want to be John Marks, get asked a Flyers question, not know the answer. I like to know the answers. They don't know how bad it actually was in the 80s, man. 80s were bad. And early 90s, too, yeah. I'm 41. I remember when certain Eagles games were blacked out. I remember that, too. I remember my dad not being able to explain to me why it wasn't on. Kotite was the worst football coach, but we've had many, many bad coaches for the Phillies and the Sixers. Those late 80s, early 90s coaches like Doug Moe, and who was the other one around Doug Moe? The guy before or after Doug Moe? There was another one that was really bad. A little late to the party. We're an hour in. Probably the lowest commented show I've had in ages. Here, I mean, the views are still there. The likes are still there. We're at 19 likes on this video. No new subscribers, but the 19 likes are there. But only 75 comments so far. We normally average like 300, 325 a show. 75 comments. You know why? Probably because people are tired of having to have the conversation of benching Jalen Hurts. People are tired of nonsense. It's better to realize that Jalen Hurts gives the Eagles the best possible chance to turn it around. By the way, on a side note, I'm going through my notes here. Yes, it is official. The bunny, the positivity bunny is gone. The positivity bunny got Artie Bucco'd. And that's good. And I wonder if anybody's actually Googled what Artie Buccoing a bunny actually is. 5 more, exactly. We had a good day the last couple days on the growth. Nothing yet today, but we'll see. Man, I want so bad to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. It's just not happening. It's just not happening, man. Jalen Hurts fatigue. K1, you're absolutely correct, and I'm getting that way. I actually didn't want to go live this morning. K1, I never don't want to go live. I didn't want to go live this morning. Because I didn't want to spend time defending or debating Jalen Hurts. I spent a good 25, 30 minutes straight earlier in the show just talking the defense. Talking Jordan Davis and Nolan Smith. Because I'm bored of it. And while there is fatigue, and that hurts the little guy like me, people are still calling that radio station and responding to it and buying into it. Benching a Super Bowl champion from last year's diabolical. Even suggesting it, Raheem, even suggesting it is diabolical in my opinion. Even thinking that you have a better chance going with an unknown Tanner McKee to turn the season around than Jalen Hurts. It's frustrating, it's exhausting, and it's boring. And Raheem, thanks for checking in. Like and subscribe if you have not. I need that. I need those numbers to go up. See you in hell, positive bunny. Yeah. Geno Smith has not been officially ruled out, but all reports is they're expecting to do that by the end of the week. He's not practicing, but by Friday they'll officially rule him out. So that would mean former Eagles backup Kenny Pickett will be starting. Remember when we traded Kenny Pickett last year? And I said it was a bad idea to trade Kenny Pickett. Imagine if we would have traded Tanner McKee like I wanted to and kept Kenny Pickett, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Actually, we probably would be having this conversation. People would be saying, well, Kenny Pickett's got a winning record as a starter in the NFL. Give him a shot. That would be the argument. See, that's how bad our OC and head coach are at a scheming offense, that it literally has our fan base wanting to bench a Super Bowl MVP that threw, like, had a phenomenal fucking game in the Super Bowl, too. Let's not forget that. He wasn't just the MVP. I mean, he was phenomenal, okay? Exactly. Exactly. And yes, but the problem is, AK, does making drastic changes at this point solve anything? Maybe changing the play caller would. Maybe changing the OC would have. They probably should have done it sooner. They probably should have brought in a consultant sooner. They didn't. So I kind of feel like at this point, with 4 weeks left, they're better off at least trying to find some form of a groove. Because all they got to do is win 1 or 2 games. They're going to win 3 of the next 4. But all they really need to do is go 2-2, and they got this. Isn't it better off to try to find some consistency of any level, get healthy, and hope for the best in the new season when the playoffs start? Will LeSean McCoy really lead the Eagles Hall? I think this is a funny-ass story, okay? I didn't get to watch it, but I did read it. We'll get back to it. I want to get to these other comments for a second, and then we're going to talk LeSean McCoy in a minute here. Morning, Jess. How you doing today? Realistically, what seed position should we be optimistic about for the postseason? The Ram and Packers have a harder schedule left than us. I mean, in theory, we could still win 12 games. We're 8-5. I think I read somewhere that if we win out and the Rams lose out, that we could still get the number 1 seed. I think. Realistically, it's not possible, but theoretically, it is possible. I mean, realistically, we're going to end up with the 3 seed. And I'm perfectly fine with that. That gives us a home playoff game, and then we see what happens. My number 1 goal is getting to the playoffs, finding some form of consistency on offense, and getting healthy. Getting Lane Johnson, getting Jalen Carter, getting Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, getting those guys as close to 100%. And then we'll see what happens. There were some positive plays from the last game. Dude, if you really go back, Raheem, and watch the last game, there was some changes on that offense. Now, it wasn't sustained. They didn't stick with it in the second half. But there were moments in the first half and early second half. Oh, wow, that was different. That was good. So back to this. LeSean McCoy did say on one of the shows or somewhere online that if they don't fire Kevin Patullo, he wants out of the Eagles Hall of Fame. Talking about making a drastic comment like that. I think it's hilarious. I think it's comical. But I also think it's funny to the state of what the Eagles offense is like. Yo, I don't want to be in the Hall of Fame. You can unretire my number 25. Give it out to whoever he wants. Whoever wants it. Because Kevin Patullo sucks that much. It's a bold statement from LeSean McCoy. You did call for a mentor and Patullo's support from week 4. You did. And I told you, give him another week or 2. Now here we are in week 15, and we're still stuck with it. Hurts had 15 touchdowns and 1 interception, almost 2,000 yards through 8 games this year. His numbers through 8 games this year were great. The numbers the last 5, not so much. He can fix it. He can turn it around. But if we don't get our crap together, we will lose. We will be one and done. Absolutely. Right now, if the playoffs started today, we'd be facing the 49ers at home. And I hate to break it to you, the way we've played the last 5 weeks, the 49ers would demolish us in that game. No doubt about it. I don't care if it's Mac Jones, Brock Purdy, or the ghost of Tom Brady. I don't care. It was because you can't beat teams with defense minds that can see how simple and rigid our offensive play calling is. It makes it very easy. Something that was brought up by Shane Haff, and I know Anthony and you guys love Shane Haff from Eagles Pinpoll. The Eagles offense is predictable, right? But you know what makes a predictable offense even more predictable? Waiting until there's 1 second left on the play clock every play to snap the ball. When that clock is going from 1 to 0, and that's when you snap every play, it makes it so easy for the defense to get off the ball and get pressure. Where's the snaps with 6 seconds left, 4 seconds left, 9 seconds left? Mixing it up. This whole look back, smack the center on the butt, snap the ball. It's predictable as predictable can be. And Shane Half brought this up. I don't know if he did in one of his videos, but I saw a tweet explaining it too. The predictability of the offense becomes even more predictable when the defense doesn't have to worry about when is the ball going to be. We know. And I don't think that's discussed enough. And it's always been a thing with Jalen Hurts, but it's becoming even more obvious and blatant this year. No changing anything right now fixes nothing. It's too late. This is something you have to do in the offseason. Absolutely. And what you do is you try to mask it and patchwork it together as best as you can right now. And you see how far it gets you this year. And then you worry about the rest next year. McCoy's Hall of Fame. McCoy is betraying to force hand. Yeah, he is. He's not leaving. I know. I wish Jeffrey Lurie would call his bluff and rip his number down. I don't know if he's a scumbag. Rick, that to me, unless you've got specific examples, I mean, I don't know about that. But I like the whole call his bluff on that. Changing our head coach isn't a drastic decision to me. Still together, and with a competent head coach, we'll pick up where we left off. Drastic is trading Jalen or AJ to the head coach smart. Yeah, look, AJ might get traded. It might happen. We'll discuss that in the offseason. I know these messages seem sporadic, but I only have 200 characters. No, it's okay. I get you, my man. I got you. Translating comments, just so you know. Only 4 weeks, one last quarter. Dude, I can't believe that's a great comment. That when you spell it out like that, like it's crazy. This football season has flown by. This year has flown by. Thank God. I'm so glad the year's almost over. The year started crappy. The year was crappy. The year is finishing out strong for me. Now I need the Eagles to finish out strong, right? Let's not forget, this is Sirianni's offense. It sucks. It's up to him to change it, and if he's not willing to, then he needs to go. Look, again, just like benching a Super Bowl quarterback is hard for me, firing the Super Bowl head coach is hard for me as well. Does firing Nick Sirianni even make the job? No, let me rephrase it. I'm going to ask you a different question. You fire Nick Sirianni, does he get a job somewhere else right away? I think the answer is yes. And if the answer is yes, then you don't fire him. If he's a guy that's going to have to get demoted or sit out a few years before he gets a chance, then maybe you consider it. But I think Nick Sirianni has a job within a year if he wants it. That means you don't fire him. There's no team going to demolish the Eagles even with this bump in the road. Yeah, the Eagles lost 3 in a row, but barely all were winnable games. Don't forget we beat. Oh, look, again, I tried to go with that conversation earlier in the show, Rick. But again, we talk about we don't talk about the schedule enough. I mean, think of the teams we had to play this year. We've earned the right to have these 3 easy games in the next 4 weeks. We've earned that right. The Eagles have been playing their worst football in a decade, and we have been close every game. Yeah, exactly. There have been many stories come out about Shady's. I have not seen one of them. If you find one of them, Rick, you send it to me on Facebook, and I'll read it. But I haven't heard any of that. The story isn't over. Might not turn out to become one of the greatest turnarounds ever. It might. It might not. But I don't care. I'm not benching my quarterback. I'm not firing my head coach. I'm letting it play out. But I like someone else calling plays? Sure. Did I question the hiring of Kevin Patullo before he even got hired? Yes. Did we all know Kevin Patullo probably wasn't the right choice? Yup. But here we are. It might be too late to make change. AJ needs to correct his mentality or need to be gone because what seems like lack of engagement is killing this team. Look, AJ might go. Sirianni ain't getting fired. No, he's not. Not right now. We did let go of Doug. Like, he won the Super Bowl in 2017, and we didn't let go of him until 2020. So it was years later, 18, 19. He coached 3 more seasons after that before he got gone. All right? You fire your head coach a year after winning a Super Bowl. You make your job, filling that job with a real candidate, that much harder. Elite candidate ain't going to come here and be like, well, if I win a Super Bowl and I've one down year the next year, I'm out. There ain't no job security there. I'm out. Coaches want job security. I think you would be surprised at the lack of opportunities Nick would have. I don't know. I actually think Nick would be a great head coach in college, but that's another subject. Rick's right. Shady is a scumbag. I know him personally. I've partied with him personally. He's a dick. How have you partied with him? Interesting. I don't know. I can take your word for it. How have you partied with him? I don't know, but okay. The Jets hired Kotite after we exactly. Think about that, Duck. I totally forgot about that, but that's a hell of a comment, a hell of a reach right there. If I were Tank, I would be pissed. I would be pissed too. He had 7 snaps on the field on Monday night. Frank Reich, OC, would be the smart pick to take over the offense. He's not going to be a head coach anytime soon. He's your Vic Fangio. The only problem with Frank Reich as the OC is that if they lose, if they're struggling, people are going to call for Sirianni to be fired and Frank Reich to take over. And I think we've seen enough to know that Frank Reich is a great coordinator, probably not a great head coach. Players have said they need to clean up their practices. You practice how you play, and you can see it during the game. I agree with that. And this is the first time in his era here in Philly that we've had to question Nick Sirianni's practice techniques, practice style. And here we are, and they do. You practice, you play how you practice. You work how you learn. You have to. Actions speak louder than words, though. You hear them talk about clean up practice, clean up sideline energy in the games, clean up execution. We've heard a lot of this, Raheem, over the last 4, 5, 6 weeks, and not enough action, okay? There's a strong chance because of the situation the Eagles are in, it might not be because they want him out of here because of, his attitude or personality. It just might be a financial numbers crunch, too. Michigan coach situation got crazy. I saw a bunch of stuff that he got fired for some inappropriate actions. Did he knock up an assistant or something like that? And he paid for an abortion or whatever. I don't want to get into the ethics part of it, but that's crazy, man. Whatever, man. Mitchie Poo could comment on that. But it took Doug Pearson 3 years to lose his locker room after Super Bowl. He didn't lose the locker room the year after. Did Nick Sirianni lose the locker room? I don't know. I think that's just speculation at this point that he's lost the locker room. College coach, yeah, lots of opportunity. I think Nick Sirianni would make a great head coach in college. Running a program like that, grooming young kids teaching young men how to become, grown-ups. His cliches, I think, would translate better in college. Nick lost it the year before he won the Super Bowl, so Nick lost it twice to Doug's once. That's true. He might have lost it twice. I apologize. I didn't mean to fire the coach right away. I'm saying if you don't change this style offense. Gotcha. Look, it's good. No harm, no foul. Nick Sirianni gets one more year. No matter what happens over the next 4 to 6 weeks, Nick Sirianni gets one more year, at least in my opinion. No matter what happens the rest of this year, Jalen Hurts gets 2 to 4 more years, in my opinion. That's just me. I party with him because me and Shady live in the same town. His mom lives 20 minutes. Okay, cool. I don't remember you saying this. I had too many drugs and alcohol. I don't remember half the things I say or talk about. We used to party down on 2nd Street in Harrisburg for many years here in PA. Good for you. That's pretty cool. But also sucks that he's like that. Frank Reich is kind of a douche. He might be. Frank Reich was the architect of the Eagles' 17 Super Bowl winning team. Yeah, for sure. That was 9 years ago, though. Hopefully Michigan can pull Kirk away from Indiana. Dude is a phenomenal head coach. Didn't Kirk just sign an extension with Indiana? I already predicted. Rick, I said this Monday or Tuesday on the show. That Indiana-Ohio State game was the first football game, college-wise, that I watched more than 30 seconds of all year. I watched literally 2.5 quarters of that game. Watched from about 6-7 minutes left in the second quarter right to the end. That was a phenomenal defensive performance from Indiana. And I'm predicting, knowing nothing else about the other teams in the college playoffs, I'm predicting an Indiana-Ohio State chalk championship game. That they're going to get that rematch in the title game. Sirianni just needs McKee as his quarterback and they'll be fine. Hurts many more years. Nick at least one more. Patullo is gone. That's pretty much the track record where we're going. Don't brag about that. Love college football. Way better than NFL. I just partially I lost interest when all the conferences were changing and rivalries were changing. Personally, I lost a little bit of interest with the NILs. Like I thought it would help. I think it hurt it. I lost a little interest because in life, I can only watch so many sports. I do a lot of work with content. And football, college sports in general, just kind of were the first things I had to cross something off my list. I'm not crossing my Sixers off for random college teams that I have no attention or attachment to. So college sports just kind of was the first thing to get just pushed off to the side. If this goes downhill and we keep Nick and then the same shit happens next year as well, just know I'm coming back here and y'all are getting an earful. Yeah, I have no problem being told I told you so. And I'll admit when I'm wrong. I've admitted I'm wrong more than probably all content creators and radio hosts combined in Philadelphia. I have actually admitted I'm wrong more than all combined, okay? College football is getting very interesting with playoffs. Now they want to add more playoff teams. I like where the playoffs are now. I'm telling you, I'm afraid they're going to look at this year for Kevin Patullo as an inexperienced year and keep him next year. And Nick is going to put his job on the line for KP. I don't want this. I actually would not be shocked. Not shocked if this happens, AK. I, without a doubt, can see Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman saying we're going to get that. There's a lot of external reasons, the injuries on the offensive line. They're going to make a bunch of excuses and say next year will be different. They'll trade A.J. Brown. They'll add a left tackle or right tackle in the draft. They'll get the defense better. This legitly is a possibility. Do we want it to happen? No. Could it happen? Absolutely. NIL needs to incentivize staying. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree with you on that. My podcast, Two Birds, One Show. I always man up every time I'm wrong about anything. Yeah, absolutely. But, Rick, that's a rarity. A rarity in anybody that talks sports, whether you're a fan, a media, or an online creator. It's a rarity that people will admit they're wrong. And personally, I think it makes you a more, how do I say this the right way? A more reputable voice in sports if you're willing to admit you're wrong. If you're willing to admit it, it makes you better. I've been called a flip-flopper by so many people. Some bigger names. No, I'm not flip-flopping. I say I evolve my opinion when more knowledge is in front of me. I know I just also, I know I told you 4 weeks ago this shit was coming, and here it is now. Look, what shit's coming? 3 losses in a row? We're still making it in the playoffs. But yes, we should have seen this coming. This is actually similar in the sense to 2023, where there was writing on the wall of an eventual collapse. I hope Eagles haven't given up on this team yet. This story ain't over. Eagles, the organization, the players, or the fans. I hope nobody's given up on this team. Will they get back and win another Super Bowl, Rick? It's too soon to tell. You can't predict that. But this team is still going to make the playoffs. And let me tell you something. If this team finds a way to get healthy, I guarantee you nobody wants to face the Eagles in the playoffs. If they're healthy. If Landon Dickerson gets to 90%, if Lane Johnson's at 95%, if Jalen Carter's back at 95%, A 10-7, a 9-8 Eagles NFC East champion. Nobody wants to face them with Jalen Hurts and this experienced team. You get this team on a roll in January, they're probably the scariest team entering the playoffs. This was all caused by AJ like he didn't. See, I thought 23 was more Reddick. We don't really truly know, but yeah. Look, he might be gone. Not that I want to, but if we kept the OC for another year, at least Jalen would finally have the same. Exactly. And he did get it to a Super Bowl when Shane Steichen stayed for an extra year. Eagles fans haven't given up on this team. I don't think, deep down inside, I don't think fans have. I think fans are convinced by WWWIP. But I don't think they believe it. Just like the hosts on the radio don't believe the nonsense they spew, I don't think fans believe it. For sure, I'm wrong a lot. Caleb Williams this year so far is proving. Yeah, Caleb Williams has proven me wrong as well. Been a long stretch of games playing playoff or in the hunt teams need these next 4 weeks to figure something out so that the playoffs aren't one and done. Steve, you're right. Again, the schedule we faced. Literally, when was the last time we faced a team that's maybe not going? Hold on a second. Let me look at something here. The Giants twice. The Giants twice and the Chiefs are the only teams right now that we've played that aren't going to. The Chiefs still have a chance. So the Giants are the only non-playoff team we faced, for sure, this year. That's it. We've only faced one, for sure, non-playoff team this year. I would fear Eagles with Bills because they have a pass rush, but right now, a great pass rush team should be licking their chops with Bird's weak-ass O-line. It's fair. JT needs to be in the next signing by fighting Phils. The Phillies, lost Griff McGreary, one of their former young prospects, in the Rule 5 draft. They picked somebody in the Rule 5 draft. They picked a minor leaguer. They made a trade yesterday. Oh, non-consequential moves yesterday for the Phillies. JT Realmuto will be signed today by the Phillies, I think. I really do. Bills have no pass rush, post a fraud. We'll see in a couple weeks. Last year's Eagles team was Rocky 2. This year, Eagles team is Rocky 3. Yeah. You missed it yesterday, Rick. Someone said yesterday on the show, Jalen Hurts this year is Ricky Vaughn from MLB Major League 2. Got a little too ahead of himself, and now he's got to be brought to earth, and then they'll be fine. Eagles issues are probably all fixed with a good O-line draft and free agency. Phil's got a really good. I don't know anything about him. I saw it. It was on my bottom of my list to accomplish yesterday to research him. I don't know. But I did hear he could be a hard-throwing bullpen arm, fifth, sixth inning kind of guy at least. Yeah. See, that's what I don't understand. We sit here and we say that, but yet Steen played 6 games last year. Toth played a few games last year, and they weren't bad. We won with them playing. It's not our player. Steen, here's the thing. Steen was the 6th guy last year. Toth was the 7th or 8th guy last year, right? Steen's the 5th guy this year. Toth has been counted on to start way too much here this year. The Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens injuries last year have affected them this year, along with new injuries this year. Okay? The O-line's just not been healthy. Jordan Mailata spoke earlier this year about how you talk about running backs being worn out from the 2,000-yard season, but they don't talk about how that wore out the offensive line. There's a lot more to it, to the offensive line struggles, in my opinion. Damn what? Throw him the heater. No, he went. What was the name of the pitch? The Eliminator? Was the new pitch that was getting demolished? Question, please. Tell me when the last time a Super Bowl team had no identity all year long and looked the way we do, and then magically just found something week 14 and reran it back. I'm sure and they don't have an identity. Or maybe their identity is they're just what they are. There's also very rare that a team goes to the Super Bowl and goes back the next year. Unless you're a dynasty like the Chiefs or the Patriots. Very rarely do you repeat. There's a reason why. That I don't know. All I researched, mister, was the times that Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni have lost 3 games in a row. And the only 2 times they've lost 3 games in a row since they've been here, they won their following game. In 23, week 16, we beat the Giants. Jalen Hurts threw for over 300 yards. And in 2021, in week 5, we beat the Panthers on a defensive performance. Okay? The only 2 times. That's all I did research-wise. Eli's Giants. I mean, it's very rare is what I'm saying. Okay? Not trying to be negative. I'm trying to be realistic. I love my team. But like I said, man, these guys show me they won it. This year's done for me. And you're still going to watch it because they're still your team. And that's what it is. And I get it. And I understand. And you're validated in being frustrated, pissed off, and done with this team. I understand it. They go in via wild card from winning the last few games and swept the deck. Yeah, I do know that. The Giants. I'd rather be surprised by this team than depressed by this team. At this point, I'm going to go into this playoffs with low. You should treat this team like I treat the Sixers. Truly commit to the no expectations. Because we lose, no matter. Maybe this Eagles team identity needs to be the underdog identity. They've been favorites most of the year. Maybe come playoffs, they'll get disrespected and the underdogs and shock the world. Maybe they will. I mean, what we've seen the last 4 weeks doesn't tell us that. But maybe it happens, Rick. And I'd be more likely to see that happen than potentially miss the playoffs, like some think will happen. It's very possible. It's more than likely that that's the way it goes. I don't know. We'll see. Guys, let's see where we're at. I think we're at 25, 26 likes today. I know we have 25 votes on the poll. Not a chance we go 5 minutes without talking about benching Jalen Hurts. A little jest in the poll today, so I love it. Yeah, we got 26 likes, no new subscribers. Not too bad today, guys. That doesn't matter. Depth does not matter. Experience is experience, and these guys got it, and they got it with the best of them. They're not bad players. This whole scheme is bad, making them look bad. I don't know if the scheme is making the offensive line look bad as an excuse for the injuries. Look, Lane Johnson's been hurt all year. Cam Jurgens has. Landon Dickerson literally played 2 weeks after having knee surgery, but he probably should have sat a couple of weeks. The scheme is bad. I'm not making an excuse for the scheme, but the offensive line hasn't helped. What would you rather see against the Raiders? Eagles' offense is great, but they lose, or the offense is terrible again, but the defense wins the game? The defense wins the game for us. Anybody that wants to see the Eagles lose, but the offense look great, have no clue. Wins are all that matters. Plain and simple. If we win the Super Bowl and Patullo's gone, I'd be okay with that. Yeah. Plus, I also believe Stout and KP have 2 different ways that they want to run the football, and they both can't agree. That's possible. That is possible, too. Communication between Stout and Patullo and Aaron Moorhead and Patullo and Singleton, maybe there is that, too. Maybe. That's definitely a possibility. Anyway, we gave you a good 5 minutes of overtime today. Not a bad show. Comments were a little light because, like K1 said, yes, there is Jalen Hurts fatigue, for sure. And I blame WIP for that Jalen Hurts conversation fatigue. I've given you guys value every single day since I've been retired yesterday. I cut it off at the right time. I have. Anyway, Anthony, thank you very much. That's good to see you in the chat. I think you'll see by the end of the week, the most important news for you, Anthony, will happen by the end of the week. And that'll be Nick Castellanos will not be on the Phillies team anymore. If he's not traded by the end of the winter meetings, they will just flat out release him. So, yeah, just so you know, you'll get your wish on Nick Castellanos very, very soon. But anyway, with that being said, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to go shower, have breakfast, get my day underway. You have a great one, guys. We'll be back tomorrow with another show. I know you can't wait. I've been thinking about you every day, waiting for that, okay? Waiting for that news to drop. Yeah, Bazoon Hoot afternoon to all. Dude, I miss golf, K1. Me and Jason were talking yesterday. We just missed golf season. Another great show in the can. Absolutely. Every day is a great show. If Hurts is terrible and they can win, we're hearing more Tanner turds coming out of the woodwork. I don't care. And I'll shut them down as I always do. Okay? Because that's what I do. I shut the Tanner turds down. I like that. It's no longer the McKeisters. We're writing that down. I like that. Tanner turds. Gonna make a shirt for that. Guys, have a great day. I'll be back tomorrow morning, live 8 a.m. as always for Football Friday, breaking down this week's game. Final preview and prediction, Eagles Raiders tomorrow. Go Birds. And it's always, it's bubbles up.